The room was too cold. Captain Yumiko Oda figured it was intentional. Cold rooms kept people alert. Cold rooms didn't let you get comfortable, and comfort was the first thing that got soldiers killed. She stood at the edge of a hollow table. Above it, a projection turned slowly. A ship the size of a small moon, black as a wound against the stars, drifting at the edge of human territory with nothing but empty space beyond it.
"The Vashtar call it Kelmura," said the man briefing them, Director Hollis. 30 years of reading reports about the deaths of strangers had left his face tired and papery. Roughly, it translates to the Hollow Breaker, flagship class. As far as we can tell, it's coordinating the assault fleet massing at the border. "Coordinating how?" asked Sergeant Thomas Reyes. "Built like a doorframe. Spoke like one too."
"We don't know," Hollis said. "That's the point of this briefing."
Oda had heard the numbers before. She let Hollis say them again anyway. Numbers had a way of losing their weight if you didn't keep picking them back up. 700 years, the Vashtar ascendancy had been doing this. 41 civilizations cataloged as extinguished. Likely more, since extinguished civilizations don't leave witnesses to file reports. Humanity had been among the stars for 150 of those 700 years. An eye blink. A single breath taken in the middle of somebody else's very long war. 3 border colonies have gone dark this year, Hollis continued. There will be a 4th if that fleet finishes gathering. We don't have the numbers to win a fleet engagement. We might have the numbers to evacuate if we know when they're coming and where they'll strike first. That's what you're going to get for us."
He looked around the table at the 5 of them. Something in his face softened. The way a man's face softens when he's about to ask people to walk into a fire on his behalf. "You'll go in on a modified courier hull, the Halcyon, running dark, riding a debris field the Vashtar seem to be ignoring. Dock. Get into their data architecture. Get out. 6 hours if the mission runs clean, 12 if it doesn't."
"And if we're caught?" Priya Anand, the team systems specialist, didn't look up from the interface running through her fingers. "Same answer as always."
Nobody flinched. That was the job.
Oda studied her team while Hollis wound down. Reyes, her second. A breacher who'd never met a locked door he respected. And, quicksilver fast with anything electronic. Kess Larkin, their scout and marksman, still in the way predators are still. And Dr. Nathaniel Okafor, the linguist. The only one of them not military, small, precise. Reading glasses pushed up into graying hair. 4 years spent building a working grammar of the Vashtar language out of intercepted fragments and the black box recordings of dead colonies.
He was the reason this mission existed. Without him, they could steal every byte of data on that ship, and it would mean nothing but noise. "You're sure you can read it?" Oda said quietly after Hollis dismissed the room. Okafor took off his glasses and cleaned them on his sleeve. "I'm sure I can read some of it. The Vashtar don't write the way we do. Their language nests meaning inside meaning. 1 glyph, 5 meanings, depending on what surrounds it. Like a note that means nothing until you hear the rest of the song. I have maybe 60% of their military dialect built. I don't know what's in the other 40. "Not very reassuring, Doc." "No," Okafor agreed. "But it's honest. I'd rather give you an honest 60 than a false 100. Oda respected that. She'd commanded men who lied to her with confidence, and men who told her the truth with none. She trusted the second kind more. The Halcyon wasn't a warship. It was a matte black needle built to swallow radar, drifting through the graveyard of human colonies. They rode it in silence through the debris field, past the broken husks of mining platforms, and before that, colonist dreams. Oda watched the wreckage slide past the viewport. She thought about how quiet the universe became once you'd killed everyone in it. 2 hours to docking window, Annan said from the pilot's seat. Her voice stayed low, out of habit more than necessity. Sound didn't carry between ships. It was a human instinct, whispering in the dark, and none of them fought it. Reyes checked the seals on his suit. Larkin sat with her rifle across her knees, thumb tracing the barrel, saying nothing. Okafor sat apart from the rest. His tablet glowed with Vashtar glyphs, lighting his face. He murmured under his breath, rehearsing a language he was about to need to survive. You should sleep, Oda told him. Even an hour. I don't think I could. A thin smile. In a few hours, I may be the only human being who's ever read their war plans and lived to translate them. That's the job, Oda said. It was the truest thing she knew. The hollow breaker grew in the forward viewport slowly, the way a storm grows on the horizon. First a suggestion, a wrongness in the star field, then a shape, then a presence that pressed against the hull long before they were close enough for it to matter. It wasn't beautiful. Human ships tended toward curves, toward the illusion of grace. The Vashtar dreadnought was all edges and teeth, black plating scored with lines of dull red light, pulsing in a rhythm too slow, too patient to be anything but deliberate. They keep it lit like that on purpose. Okafor stared at the light crawling along the hull. I've seen the pattern before. In wreckage records. It's not a warning light. What is it? Oda asked. A heartbeat. So I think they want anyone who sees it to know the ship is alive. Nobody answered that. There didn't seem to be anything to say. They slid the Halcyon into the shadow of a dead maintenance drone, one of hundreds drifting in the dreadnought's wake. Industrial refuse of a war machine that never stopped moving. From there, in suites rated for vacuum and little else, the five of them crossed open space toward a service airlock. Annan had found it weeks earlier in intercepted engineering telemetry. Unmonitored, unarmed, unguarded, if her calculations held. If they don't hold, she'd said, back on the courier, flat, we die very quickly, and this conversation becomes irrelevant. Her calculations held. The airlock cycled open at Anan's touch. One by one, they slipped into the dark belly of the hollow breaker. The air smelled of ozone, something organic underneath it. Fruit left too long in the sun. Reyes wrinkled his nose. Larkin didn't. She was already moving, rifle low, scanning corners. The corridor was vast. Built, Oda understood, for something larger than a human being. Ceilings arched 3 meters overhead. Doorways wide enough for 2 men to walk shoulder to shoulder with room to spare. The architecture whispered one message over and over in a language that needed no translation. We do not build for comfort. We build for dominance. Annan, talk to me. Annan had already unfolded a slim data spike from her forearm rig, crouched at a wall panel that beat with the same slow red light as the hull outside. Give me 2 minutes. It took 4. Oda counted every second. The empty corridor stretched into shadow in both directions. Nothing to listen to but her own heartbeat and the faint hum of alien machinery. Breathing, asleep, and not entirely at rest. I'm in. Anand exhaled. Local maintenance network. Not the command architecture, but it'll map us a path without walking into every patrol on this deck. Do it. A schematic bloomed in Oda's HUD. Incomplete, full of gaps where Anand's access didn't reach, but enough. 3 decks up, toward the ship's spine, where the data conduits converged into what their intelligence called the Tactical Command Core. 3 decks. Reyes checked his weapon. Through a ship built by people who eat civilizations for breakfast?
You say that like it's supposed to scare me off, Larkin said. I say it because it's true and somebody should.
Noted and ignored. Move out.
They moved like water finds a path. Not the straightest way, the way that offered the fewest chances to be seen. Larkin took point, silent even in the bulk of a combat suit. Twice they froze in shadow while the ship's inhabitants passed. Oda's first sight of a living Vashtar. She'd remember it for the rest of her life.
They were tall. Taller than she'd expected. Close to 2.5 meters, long and lean, moving with an unhurried grace. Something that had never once needed to hurry, because nothing had ever successfully run from it. Their skin held the deep gray-violet sheen of wet slate, patterned with faint bioluminescent lines, beating in that same slow rhythm as the hull. Two of them passed within 10 meters of the team, crouched in the dark beneath a service gantry. Low, resonant tones, a language that seemed to vibrate in Oda's chest more than her ears. Okafor's breath caught. His lips moved, silent, filing the sounds away. The Vashtar moved on. The corridor emptied. Nobody breathed for a long moment after that.
They didn't even look our way, Reyes whispered.
Why would they? Larkin was already moving again. This is their house. You don't check under your own bed for monsters. Oda filed that thought away too. We are the monsters here. Let's act like it.
The tactical command corps wasn't what any of them had expected. They'd prepared for guards. Oda had run 3 contingencies for a firefight, rehearsed retreat vectors until they were reflex. What they found instead, after 90 careful minutes moving through a ship the size of a city, was a vast, cathedral-silent chamber. Walls lined floor to ceiling with data lattices, glowing softly, pulsing in that same slow red rhythm, like blood in a vein. No guards. As far as Larkin's scans could tell, almost no one at all. 2 Vashtar technicians worked a console 200 meters across the chamber, attention fixed on something Oda couldn't see.
Why isn't this lockdown tighter?
Reyes muttered. A soldier's unease at a battlefield that looked too easy. Because they've never had to defend it. Something haunted crept into Okafor's voice. Look at the size of this place. Built for information, not for war. In 700 years, has anyone ever gotten this far into one of their ships and lived to matter? We're the first mistake they've ever had to account for. That should have felt like triumph. Instead, it felt like standing in a very large, very quiet room, waiting to learn why nobody had ever needed to lock the door.
Anon, you're up.
Anon found the interface port and worked in silence for 10 minutes. Her face lit blue-white. Larkin held the entrance. Reyes watched the 2 distant technicians for any sign they'd noticed 4 intruders in their sanctum.
I have it. Anon breathed out. Tactical logs, fleet deployment orders, command correspondence going back years. This isn't just the border assault. This is everything.
Pull what you can. Oda turned. Okafor, get over here. Tell me what matters. Okafor knelt beside Anand's rig and began to read.
What followed was the strangest 20 minutes of Oda's career. Not gunfire, not chaos. Just the quiet, terrible sound of a scholar's voice, slowly draining of hope.
Supply manifest, Okafor murmured. Ordnance allocation for a fleet action. 6 ships. 7. 8. Converging on... He stopped. Oda, I need the star charts.
Anon pulled them. Okafor's finger traced a glyph cluster, comparing it against known coordinates. The border colonies. His lips pressed thin. Confirmed. But that's not the primary target.
Something cold settled in Oda's stomach. Explain. That assault is scheduled in 11 days. but it's listed as a secondary engagement, a diversion. There's a second fleet, larger, still gathering. The orders reference it as the primary strike force. It's not headed for the border at all.
Where, Doc?
Okafor's hands went still. Then his eyes caught something. A single coordinate glyph, half buried in the deployment string. He knew that shape before he'd even finished reading it. He'd seen it in wreckage records for 4 years, had built and rebuilt its meaning a dozen times, hoping he was wrong every time.
He wasn't wrong. Earth, he said. It's headed for Earth. Nobody spoke. The soft red glow of the chamber walls felt less like a heartbeat now, more like a countdown. That can't be right, Reyes said. No conviction in it. Just the need to say the words out loud, as if saying them might make them true.
I wish it weren't. Okafor's voice had gone quiet. That's the designation their scout ships used for our homeworld. 11 years ago. First time they mapped our territory. They've known where we are for over a decade. The border attacks. Oda, I don't think they were ever the war. I think they were the reconnaissance.
Oda stood very still. 700 years pressing down on 150. The mission had just changed shape entirely.
How long until that fleet is ready to move? Okafor scrolled further. His face, already pale, went paler.
I need more time to be certain. But if I'm reading the schedule right, he swallowed. 40 days. Maybe less.
Larkin saw it first. A shift in the light along the chamber's far wall. Movement. Low and flat. 8 contacts east corridor. Not a patrol pattern. That's a response. They made us. Reyes was already rising, weapon up. And how much more? Oda's mind raced through exit vectors, even as she kept her voice level.
Fleet deployment data. Partial command structure. I don't have...
Take what you have. We're leaving.
The first shapes resolved out of the corridor shadow. Tall. Gray-violet. That same unhurried grace. Except now the weapons in their hands weren't unhurried at all.
Doc, with me. Reyes, Larkin, cover.
They ran. No gunshots, just a low, resonant hum. A lance of blue-white light shattered the wall a meter from Oda's head. She felt the heat of it through her suit. Larkin fired back without breaking stride. 3 shots. One shape folded and didn't rise again.
They bleed. Something like relief in Larkin's voice. Good. Focus on the door. Reyes laid down covering fire as they fell back into the corridor. The ship had felt vast and empty on the way in. Now it felt like a maze built by something that knew exactly how prey tries to run. Alarms pulsed through the walls in time with the red light. Faster now. Urgent. Doors that had stood open began sliding shut ahead of them. Every second cost more than the last. Need another route, Oda called, ducking through a closing door with a meter to spare. Okafor stumbled through behind her. Working on it. Annan's voice cut off in a gasp.
Oda turned. Annan was down. One hand pressed to her side. Blood welled between her fingers where a graze had found the seam in her suit. I'm fine. Through her teeth. Clearly not fine. Keep moving. I can still work.
Reyes hauled her up under one arm, weapon never wavering. You can work while I carry you. Go.
They fell back through the ship's arteries in a running battle. The pursuit was relentless, but ragged. As if the crew had never, in 7 centuries, needed the reflexes for chasing something that might actually escape. That carelessness was the only thing that kept them alive. Left here. Annan's hand stayed pressed to her wound. the other guiding Reyes through her HUD feed. Service corridor. Bypasses the checkpoint ahead.
It didn't entirely bypass the checkpoint ahead. 4 Vashtar security stood at the junction where the corridor rejoined the main artery. No time to find another way around.
Larkin. On it.
4 seconds. Felt longer. Larkin moved into the junction low and fast, put 2 rounds into the nearest guard before he'd registered her, rolled behind a pillar as return fire scored the wall, came up firing again. Reyes covered their flank. Annan slung over one shoulder. Oda took the 4th guard herself. 3 shots. Center mass. The cold clarity of combat settled over her. No fear in the moment itself, only the after. Waiting for her later. If there was a later at all.
The junction cleared. They ran on. Airlock's 200 meters. Annan's voice was tight but steady. Oda, the data. Even if we don't make it, someone needs the data.
We're all making it. An order as much as a hope.
They reached the maintenance airlock with the alarm still throbbing red around them. The whole ship seemed to be drawing breath before it exhaled. Larkin worked the seal. 30 seconds that felt like an hour. Reyes laid Anand against the bulkhead, covering the corridor. Okafor pressed flat against the wall, clutching his tablet to his chest like something sacred.
Come on, Larkin muttered. The seal broke. Atmosphere hissed thin around the edges. The door began its slow slide open. Then the shape came around the corner behind them. Larger than the others, darker plating, marked with the lines of gold light instead of red. Oda read it instantly, the way a soldier reads rank without ever being taught it. Something other than a common guard.
It didn't fire immediately. It looked at them. 5 small, frail creatures standing in the doorway of its ship, its home, its inheritance of 700 years of unbroken conquest. Something almost like curiosity crossed its face. Then the weapon in its grip began to rise.
Larkin fired first, high in the shoulder. The creature staggered. Half a second bought. Reyes shoved Okafor through the opening airlock. Oda dragged Anand in behind him.
Larkin, now. 2 more shots, Larkin backing through the door as she fired. The gray-violet shape went down to one knee, still reaching for them as the airlock closed. The door sealed shut. A sharp, mechanical hiss. Finality. Oda knew she'd hear that sound in her dreams for years. For a moment, all 5 of them simply breathed. Report.
Annan's stable. Wounds cauterized. Needs a real medic, but she'll live.
Told you I was fine. Annan managed something close to a smile. Doc?
Okafor still clutched the tablet with both arms, as if letting go might undo everything they'd bled for. I have it. Fleet data. The timeline. I have... His voice caught. Enough to save Earth, if anyone believes me in time.
They'll believe you, Oda said. I'll make sure of it. The Halcyon peeled away from the drone's shadow at a crawl, dark and slow. One flare of thruster light at the wrong angle could still undo everything they'd survived to learn. Behind them, the hollow breaker's red pulse continued unbroken, patient as ever. No outward sign anything inside it had changed. They're not pursuing, Larkin said. Wary. She'd learned not to trust good news. They don't need to. Oda watched the dreadnought recede into the dark. They know where we're going. They've known for 11 years. Nobody had an answer to that. Annan sat propped against the bulkhead, a field dressing over her wound, painkillers softening the pain. She closed her eyes but didn't sleep. Reyes cleaned his weapon, hands busy, keeping his mind off what they'd left behind. Larkin kept watch at the sensor console, though there was, for the moment, nothing left to watch for. Okafor sat apart, tablet dark now, set aside. He stared out at the stars. Oda sat beside him. You did it. Whatever happens next, you did what 4 years of work were supposed to let you do. You gave us the truth. I gave you 40 days. He didn't look away from the stars. 40 days to prepare a species that's had spaceflight for a century and a half against an empire that's been perfecting the art of ending civilization since before our great-grandparents were born. He shook his head slowly. I don't know if that's a gift or a very detailed way of saying goodbye.
Oda thought of the vast, silent chamber, the unlocked confidence of a power that had never once feared an intruder finding it, and the way that same power had bled, had staggered, had needed to raise an alarm at all.
They weren't ready for us. Not really. Everything about that ship said they never expected anyone to get as far as we did. 700 years of winning makes you careless, Doc. It makes you certain. Certain isn't the same as right.
Something in Okafor's face settled. Not hope. Quite. Something that could grow into it, given time and cause.
40 days, he said again. This time it sounded less like a countdown, more like a beginning. They reached the rendezvous point 6 hours after the alarm first sounded through the Hollow Breaker's corridors. The carrier Meridian's oath took them aboard in silence and urgency, medics converging on an end before the airlock had fully cycled. Oda carried Okafor's tablet through the ship's corridors herself, refusing to let it out of her hands until it was placed directly into Hollis's.
He read the summary in silence. His tired, papery face moved through disbelief, then dawning horror, then something that steadied into grim resolve. 40 days, he said finally. Maybe less. Doc will have precise numbers once he's finished a full pass on the data. But that's the window.
Hollis looked up at her. For the first time since she'd known him, she saw something in his face that wasn't tiredness at all. Something sharper. The beginning of a fight he had, until this moment, only ever prepared to lose slowly.
Then we better not waste a single hour of it. Outside the viewport, Earth's home fleet moved in familiar, unhurried patrols. Small, outnumbered, unaware for a few hours longer of how little time remained before everything changed. Oda watched the ships drift past. She thought of a heartbeat that wasn't human, patient and certain across 700 years of conquest. Patience and certainty, she understood, were not the same as inevitability.
They had bled to bring home a warning. What humanity did with those 40 days wasn't hers to decide alone.
But she intended to spend every one of them making sure the warning hadn't been given in vain.